The Bridgestone Supercar Series normally runs on some of the most famous road courses and street circuits in the country. Paved with asphalt or hardened concrete, the drivers concentrate on each other rather than the racing surface. But for the first time in supercar history, the series leaves the pavement for the dirt road of Pikes Peak, a hill climb where the surface changes as quickly as the 156 turns it takes to climb the 14,000-foot summit. And if a driver makes a mistake, it will be the first time he finds himself praying for a concrete wall to stop his fall. The Bridgestone Supercar Series is next. For the first time in the history of the International Motorsports Association, they will run on dirt. The Bridgestone Supercar Series makes its first run at Pikes Peak. Hello again, everybody. I'm Marty Reed, and that's right. The IMSA Bridgestone Supercar Series is running on the dirt at Pikes Peak, and it has been a hellacious week for all the drivers. First time on the mountain. You're going from 9,300 feet all the way up to 14,110. There's supposed to be plenty of practice, 3 days, then qualifying, 6 days in all. And you know what? We have not had one day where the weather has been perfect. In fact, for the first time in the history of the Pikes Peak Auto Hill Climb, the event will not go to the summit. We're going to stop about 3 miles short at the 16-mile mark up at Devil's Playground. For more on the conditions at the top of the mountain and why we had to shut down the upper portion of the race course, let's go to my partner, Bart Kendall.
Well, Marty, I'm up here at the finishing staging area, just past Devil's Playground, which is now the finish of this race. You can see behind me, here's part of the road that leads to the top. That portion has been closed by officials, and I tell you, it's for good reason. There's a lot of bad conditions up there. There's ice, there's steep drops, there's a lot of wind, and I drove at my rental car this morning and down to here, and I tell you, it was scary, even driving 20 miles an hour in a rental car. Here's a look at the type of conditions the guys will be facing just before they get to the finish. This soupy, kind of loose substance. The cars will be sliding around a lot, and it should, nonetheless, be a real wide-eyed experience for these first-time Bridgestone Supercar competitors.
Let's show you what the race course looks like. It starts down at 9,390 feet.
And after that will be the first look that these guys get at the track. You first have a tree line section which leads up into the ski area. After that, you have some high-speed, sweeping-type corners leading you up into Glen Cove. After Glen Cove, you get above the tree line into what we call the W's, big switchbacks back and forth, and then they'll head up to Devil's Playground where they'll finish this year's hill climb. In years past, we went to the top 14,110 feet. You see how the track goes up for another 3 miles up to there. However, this year, we won't finish there.
So now you know what the race course looks like. Let's give you an idea what the weather is like, and that is rain off into the distance, and you can see the range of temperatures and wind conditions. The weather for the last 6 days, quite frankly, well, it's just been flat awful. Practice is divided into 3 days normally, with qualifying on the 4th. And while it's common for the weather to make its presence known from time to time, never in the 73-year history of the event had Mother Nature displayed such a cruel fury. Snow, sleet, rain, hail, and winds up to 50 miles per hour wreaked havoc with the practice schedule. Storms reached all the way to the starting line area where hail damaged the Bridgestone support trailer, tearing a brand new canvas canopy to shreds and twisting the metal supports like pretzels. And for first-time supercar drivers with little knowledge of the mountain or what to expect, it was an eye-opening experience. Elliot Forbes Robinson summed it up best.
This is the first time I've come to a racetrack where the snow was building up on the windshield, and they gave me the green flag anyway.
EFR always with a line. Let's take a look at the Supercar Championship points. A 6-point lead for Sean Hendricks over Randy Pope. Sean Rowe, Peter Farrell, and Shane Lewis round out the top 5. There is 6 through 10. Now, Doc Bundy and John Schneider are not racing here at Pikes Peak. They decided to pass on the event. We have a field of 9 vehicles. We'll show you action from all 9. In fact, the first one will be the top qualifier, Sean Hendricks. Sean, 30 years old, from Easley, South Carolina. And you're going to notice the big difference is he's not running his usual BMW. He is running a Dodge Stealth 4-wheel drive. And as the top qualifier, he had the choice of starting first or going last.
Well, I think the Stealth is really going to help him because it is all-wheel drive and the conditions here. But I also think the reason he went first is he really wanted to set down a time that people were going to have to shoot for, and if weather rolled in, he'd be that much more solid in front.
Now back at the starting line, Andy Pilgrim from Cooper City, Florida, 38 years old, and normally he drives a Lotus, but Team Lotus bypassed the event. So he is actually in the street stock version of the Mazda RX-7 owned by competitor Peter Farrell.
Now, Andy also is in the points chase here, and he really wanted to make sure he didn't lose points. That's why he wanted to come here. So he's told me, look, I just want to finish this race. This place is pretty intimidating. I'm going to play it safe.
And he's at a definite disadvantage in that street stock version. Coming up to Sean Hendricks at the halfway picnic grounds, and he is at 91 miles an hour.
One thing to keep in mind is all these competitors today are on the same tire, a Bridgestone Potenza street tire, which is pretty impressive for this first time up the mountain.
Back at the starting line from Kent, Washington, 35-year-old Ed Zabinski. And Zabinski in another Mazda RX-7 Turbo, as Zabinski qualified 8th at 6 minutes, 29.4 seconds.
One of the advantages that the RX-7 Turbo has is on top-end speed. With the turbo, you're going to see some good traps through the speed time.
Now Zabinski making his way through what is known as Engineer's Corner. The sun has come out, and that is rare this week. Back to the halfway picnic grounds. This is Andy Pilgrim, and he's at 88 miles an hour. You can see the difference in speeds with that street stock version, a little bit slower than Sean Hendricks.
And as Andy Pilgrim goes by, we'll check the progress of the other competitors. You see Sean Hendricks has gotten up to Glen Cove, Andy Pilgrim through the ski area, and Ed Zabinski has just started his run.
And here we are at Glen Cove, and this will be the time to beat at the halfway point. It is 5:42.8 for Sean Hendricks, and that's what everybody else will be shooting for as he continues his way up the mountain here at Pikes Peak in Colorado Springs. Stay with us when we come back. More of round number 4 of the Bridgestone Supercar Series. Today's ESPN Speed World event is being brought to you by Bridgestone, the next revolution in tires. Marty Reed and Bart Kendall back with you at Pikes Peak in Colorado Springs. You're looking down at Sean Hendricks as he makes his way up the mountain. Now remember, Bart talked a little earlier about the fact these guys are all on the same tire. Well, he means it, literally.
In racing, you often hear manufacturers say that they like to take what they learn on the racetrack and apply it to their street technology. Sitting in front of me is a pair of Bridgestone RE71 street tires. This tire right here, all that's been done to this tire has been shaved down to a racing tread depth of 2/32 of an inch. This is the type of tire you'll find in the Bridgestone Supercar series racing on all the paved racetracks. This tire right here, on the other hand, looks exactly like a street tire, and that's no accident, because this is the same tire you can go into your tire store, buy, and put on your street vehicle. So basically, at Pikes Peak, we're racing a very regular tire up a very irregular racetrack.
Especially after all the rain. Look at Sean Hendricks with that four-wheel drive. The one thing he was concerned about earlier in the week was reliability of the car. Well, he is just about 2 turns away from making it to the finish line here at Devil's Playground.
Now, though Sean does have some experience on dirt, he doesn't have any experience at Pikes Peak, and because there was concerns about the reliability, he chose to skip several of the practice sessions, so he is really seeing this racetrack in full for the first time.
So the Easley, South Carolina resident is going to set the time to beat as he heads for the finish line here at Pikes Peak, and the margin is, as he stops the clock, 9:34.5. So that's the mark that everybody else is going to be shooting for. Next down on the starting line, it is Sean Rowe from Jacksonville, Florida. He's 27, and he is going to be in the Greenwood Corvette.
Yeah, Sean actually got off to a great start this year. He won the first 2 events in 1995. He won Sebring and he won Long Beach. He's only been racing for about 7 years, and I'm sure he's never seen anything quite like Pikes Peak.
Until your first trip, no one has seen anything like Pikes Peak. Through Engineer's Corner. Uh-oh, looks like he may have lost a gear, but he's back underway.
And you see the status of Pilgrim and Rowe, but you'll notice that the third driver, Ed Zabinski, has not finished. He's a DNF for this race.
So approaching Glen Cove, this is Andy Pilgrim, and already you can see Andy much slower in that street stock version than Sean Hendricks at 6:03.3. But as we pointed out, all he wants to do is score points because he wants to stay in the Drivers' Championship battle. Now we're on board with Shane Lewis as he pulls to the starting line, and he is carrying our onboard camera system. Shane, 29 years old, from Jupiter, Florida, and he is in a Mustang, normally in a Corvette.
Normally he's in a Corvette, so not only is he learning the mountain, but he's also learning a different car. As you see Shane work his way up through there, you can already see him working the wheel here. Shane has struggled in qualifying and practice, as have most of these drivers, but you can see he's really going hard here, and Shane's going to give it his best shot.
This is primarily, again, a street stock version of the Ford Mustang, and on board we're saying, whoa, let's just sit back and ride.
and you can really see Shane Lewis really working the wheel there. And you'll notice that even though there are straightaways on this mountain, the car is very rarely straight ahead. You see him working the wheel left and right there as he's going up the mountain. Very little time for rest as you head up the hill.
Shane Lewis, who his best finish this year is 4th back at Lime Rock on the pavement. Into Engineer's Corner. Whoa, he's really a little bit wide there.
He really hung it out there, but you have to do that sometimes. Here's another progress report. You have Andy Pilgrim almost done at Devil's Playground, Sean Rowe at Glen Cove, and the Shane Lewis we just saw down just below the ski area.
So let's check in with Andy Pilgrim, who moved to the United States back in 1984. He actually was born and raised in Nottingham, England. And he is on his way to a finish, and that's all he wanted to do today, just keep him in the championship points. As you saw, he's 6th coming into this action, and he's had the benefit of at least having the sunshine out for his entire run, which has been rare all week long.
It sure has. We've talked about the changing track conditions, and that's one thing the drivers are thinking as you're heading into a corner, you're wondering if it feels like the last corner you went to. There's always a little bit of uncertainty in your head as you head up the mountain.
Well, as you can see by the clock, that Andy Pilgrim is not going to take over the top spot. And while he takes the checkered flag, Bart has caught up with Sean Hendricks.
Sean, you have the honor of being the very first Bridgestone Supercar competitor ever to make it to the top of Pikes Peak. This is a little different than, say, Road Atlanta or Laguna Seca, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a great place. The more we stayed out here, the better it got. And I wish the weather could have been a little better today, but this is a great place to come to, and I sure hope we're able to come back again next year.
How did your run go for you? How was the track?
Track was slick. If you got out of the groove, you could really get into the rubble there. It slowed us down a bit, but it was faster in places also, so hopefully it was a good one.
So Sean Hendricks is still the man to beat, and here is Sean Rowe making his way to the top of the W's. And listen to this Corvette labor in this thin air.
Yeah, once you get to the top here, the air is a lot thinner. It's tougher for the engine to get the air it needs. The engine tends to run a lot richer, is what we call too much fuel, not enough air. You see Sean sliding around the corner, and he really lacks the horsepower that you would normally expect from a Corvette. But we're talking, 12 or 13,000 feet here.
Well, take my word for it. At 13,000 feet, just walking leaves you short of breath. Just imagine what it's like to try and make a race car perform. Well, Sean Hendricks' time is going to hold up easily as Sean Rowe comes across the finish line. And now we'll move down to the base of the mountain with Peter Farrell from Manassas, Virginia, at age 36 in the Mazda RX-7 twin turbo. He has a definite shot.
And Marty, I'll tell you, there's 2 reasons why I think he has a good shot. 1, he's driving a car that is very fast and very proven. And 2, Peter Farrell is a very experienced driver. He's driven rallies, he's driven pavement, a lot of different cars. He is well suited, and we'll see how well suited he is when we come back right after this.
Marty Reed, Bart Kendall back with you at the Bridgestone Supercar Series round number 4. That's David Daugherty as he is getting ready to go in his Nissan 300ZX. He is 29 years old from Carmel, Indiana. It's just outside of Indianapolis. And whoa, getting a little bit sideways.
And as a lot of drivers are that come out of Indianapolis, David does have some sprint car experience racing on the dirt. He was our 4th fastest qualifier, so he is set up pretty well for a good assault up on the mountain.
Take a look now. Shane Lewis is approaching Glen Cove. Peter Farrell at the halfway picnic grounds, and Daugherty just off the starting line. So we check in with Shane Lewis. The time to beat will be on the left. That is Sean Hendricks. And again, remember, this is basically a street stock version, and well off the pace is Shane Lewis as he is at 6:15.
We've seen a couple guys come here with splits that aren't even close to Sean Hendricks, and I think it's more a matter of Sean Hendricks putting on an incredible time than anyone else doing poorly.
That's Peter Farrell's top end speed at 85 miles an hour in the Mazda. That is pretty doggone good. Pick up action now with Shane Lewis. Let's just sit back and ride along.
Come on, baby, come on! Come on, come on!
Shane!
I've done that before. It's never done me any good, but Shane really encouraging his car to come on. I think that's a combination of the altitude that his car is not as quick as he's used to.
Back from the outside, this is what it looks like as he makes it up the mountain. And again, starving for air. This big V8 Ford Mustang just not used to running at this higher altitude. He makes it around the next to last corner. Let's listen again. He almost went off the edge.
Shane better keep both hands on the wheel there.
One turn to the finish line. He just wanted to make it to the finish. obvious he's not going to take over the lead. What kind of reaction will we get?
Get down. Woo!
Anybody who finishes has a good job. Congratulations. Thanks for taking us along, Shane. Elliott Forbes Robinson back at the starting line, 51 from Denver, North Carolina. He's in another of the Nissan 300ZX turbos.
And here's another guy with a lot of experience. EFR, as we like to call him, has raced in GTP, Trans Am, Firehawk, you name it. But I talked to him earlier, and he said he's never, ever seen anything like Pikes Peak.
The first day, it was so foggy. These guys couldn't tell which way the cliff dropped off and which way turned them into the mountain. And Elliott said, it's probably a good thing. We would have been afraid of where we were going to fall. Let's take a look and show you that Peter Farrell's now approaching Glen Cove, Doherty in the ski area, and Elliott Forbes Robinson in the lower portion of the course. Now, this is Peter Farrell, and whoa, I would have thought he would have been much closer to Sean Hendrick's time, Bart.
Well, we've seen a lot of guys come through here. No one has even come close to Sean's time, which leads me to believe that Sean really had a pretty fantastic run.
Elliott Forbes Robinson, 90 miles an hour. He is flying through the halfway picnic grounds.
Yeah, Elliott said that this track is a matter of gradually building up confidence as you get up near the top.
Back to Glen Cove. Here comes David Doherty. And again, boy, Sean Hendricks in that four-wheel drive stealth is just crushing the competition here at Pikes Peak.
Yeah, right now it looks like it's almost a battle for second place. We've had a lot of guys bunched up in second, but Sean Hendricks has certainly distanced himself from the field, at least up until now.
And back to Peter Farrell. That best finish he's had so far was third at Long Beach.
You know, Peter, I think if he just gets to the top of the mountain, he's going to be real pleased. I know he wants to win, but let me tell you a little bit about the weekend he's had. A couple days ago when we had all that rain and snow and wind, the wind came in and blew his canopy over. He literally had, he and his three crew guys were holding up the canopy so it wouldn't collapse on his race cars. They had to do that for over an hour. That is a superhuman effort right there.
And then they had to make a motor change on top of it. So here he comes, the time to beat. He's not going to do it. And look at the domination by Sean Hendricks as another victim falls to Hendricks 934.5. Wow, what a performance by Hendricks. We just didn't know what we had seen that first run up the mountain. Stay with us. More of the Bridgestone Supercar Series from Pikes Peak. Marty Reed and Bart Kendall back with you at Pikes Peak, and look at the clouds starting to roll in to the top of the mountain. At the base of the mountain, we're getting ready for Randy Popes, the last man off the starting line, the second fastest qualifier, 37 years old from Melbourne, Florida, and he is in one of the BMWs.
Yeah, Randy was very intrigued with this place when he first came here. He's a veteran of a lot of road racing, and believe it or not, he got his start in autocross, where you're actually racing for time around cones, which coincidentally is pretty similar to what he's doing today. Obviously, the stakes are a little higher, the speed's a little greater, but you're essentially racing against the clock.
Randy, a tremendous, whoa, getting it a little wide there, a little hot into Engineer's Corner, but he recovers nicely. Let's bring you up to date on the map. Doherty is approaching the W's. Elliott Forbes Robinson at Glen Cove, and Randy Popes is heading for the halfway picnic ground. At Glen Cove, here comes EFR, and again, look at the time, as no one can seem to get under 6 minutes except Sean Hendricks.
Yeah, Sean has really distanced himself from the field. EFR, I think, right now is in second place, but second place is sure a long way from first, as we see, who's that? That is David Doherty, as he's working his way up to the top of the mountain here for the last few corners.
David and another of the Nissan ZX contingent, 9th in the points. He will make it to the summit. So far, only Ed Zabinski, the only driver not to reach the finish line area for this year's race. Look at all that snow to the right. It's July 4th, folks. Don't you have snow in your neighborhood?
Yeah, usually on the 4th of July, I'm out on a boat somewhere doing a barbecue. Here it's a little bit different, as we see David work to the top, and once again, we see just how fine a time it was for Sean Hendricks, as he once again is leagues ahead of David Doherty.
Well, and again, remember, no one has broken 10 minutes except for Sean Hendricks. Total domination. Here comes Randy Popes through the halfway picnic grounds at 90 miles an hour.
You see Randy flash by. Randy is a very mechanical, thoughtful type of driver, and by that he means he thinks a lot about it, he visualizes in his head, he thinks what he can do to do better.
Elliott Forbes Robinson, as he works his way towards the finish line. Now, Elliott was the second quickest through Glen Cove, but remember, he was still 18 seconds behind Sean Hendricks. So now it'll be a matter of, can he get it in the top portion of the race course. And just by the look of that corner and the way the car is bogging, I don't think he's got enough. I think that four-wheel drive that Shawn Hendricks brought with that Dodge Stealth has been the big difference in this race. As look, there we are. Again, nobody under 10 minutes except Shawn Hendricks. And Elliott Forbes Robinson moves into the second spot. Yes? Yes, he does. At 10:11.2. And that's second place, folks. So now we get to the final man who has a chance at catching Shawn Hendricks. And he is 13 seconds behind. Randy Post has finally been the second to crack the 6-minute mark at Glen Cove. But he has got a long way to go to catch our leader, Shawn Hendricks. Stay with us. We'll wrap things up at round number 4 of the Bridgestone Supercar Series from Pikes Peak. But first, this. Today's ESPN Speed World event has been brought to you by Bridgestone, the next revolution in tires. Along with Bart Kendall, I'm Marty Reed at Pikes Peak in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Look at the gorgeous view in the background. The rain has held off at least through today's race for the Bridgestone Supercar Series. Randy Popes making his way towards the finish line.
Yeah, Randy had a good run the first lower half of the bout. And I tell you, I think his autocrossing experience really paid off. Randy is used to racing against the clock. You're not worried about passing other drivers, being passed. You can really focus on the driving in hand and what you have to do. And besides, you see him going by the people here. Randy said, I like driving my shiny BMW by these people. It makes me proud.
Well, earlier this year, he finished second at Sebring and at Lime Rock, but he's not going to finish second here at Pikes Peak, as Shawn Hendricks has been king of the mountain in the Bridgestone Supercar Series, as Randy Popes will end up in 4th place, 42 seconds behind. What a dominating performance by Shawn Hendricks. EFR in 2nd, Peter Farrell 3rd, David Doherty rounding out the top 5. There is Andy Pilgrim doing a great job in a street stock car. Sean Rose, Shane Lewis, and Ed Zabinski. Let's go to victory lane with Bart.
I'm here with the winner of the Bridgestone Supercar, the inaugural winner of the Supercar run at Pikes Peak, Shawn Hendricks. Now, Shawn, you're standing next to a green race car, which sometimes they say is bad luck. It was good luck for you today.
Yeah, it sure was. The car ran great. These guys gave me this four-wheel drive for this race. I normally run the BMW, but Ed Arnold had this car laying around, and we knew it would be a good car. And I'd sure like to thank him for giving me this car, because the four-wheel drive worked great, and the twin turbo, man, this was the car to beat up here this weekend.
Now, you had a little different strategy than most people for the week. You didn't take as much practice time as everyone else. Why was that?
Well, the car, its reliability has been kind of low, so we had to take it easy all weekend. I'd been up here quite a few times in a rental car, and I knew if I knew this track too well, I'd get out here and try to overdrive, and that's something you don't want to do on this mountain at all. So I was just planning on coming up here and driving conservative, and hopefully the four-wheel drive and the turbo charger would get me all the way to the hill faster than anybody else.
Well, Shawn, I've been up the mountain in a rental car, and I guarantee you mine didn't go as fast as your Dodge Stealth did today. Shawn Hendricks with a 14-point margin now over Randy Popes. Peter Farrell moves up to 3rd. Sean Rowe is now 4th. Shane Lewis up to 5th. Andy Pilgrim holds down the 6th spot alone. Then EFR, David Doherty, and Doc Bundy and John Schneider, because they did not make an appearance here, dropped to 9th and 10th in the points. That's going to do it for us here at Pikes Peak. Hope you have enjoyed the inaugural running of the Bridgestone Supercar Series. For my partner, Bart Kendall, I'm Marty Reed. We'll see you next time we go racing on ESPN.